Alrighty, it finally came. We officially have a new shifter for the Bass Cat. I ended up going with an off-brand BRP system. It's called Vivor. I've just been on kind of a roll of just testing random products on Amazon because a lot of people are curious if some of this stuff is good, and I really liked the BRP system that I had on my Alumacraft back in the day. I used to own a 2014 Alumacraft Escape, and it had essentially this exact shift control on the boat. Now, it was BRP. BRP was always good to me, and since we have a Johnson GT, I figured, hey, what the heck. So today we're gonna try and install this bad boy. I've never installed one of these before. The bad news is it has a key installed. I really couldn't find any shifting control that didn't have a key that I liked. I don't know, I might override this key and still use the one in the ignition, or maybe I'll splice into this and just use this key. Because my biggest concern right now is having a kill switch for this boat. Right now we don't have one, so either I override this key, don't use it, and I wire in a kill switch. And then along with that, I am going to be custom fitting some type of dashboard in it as well. So welcome back, it's good to see your face, and let's get to installing that shift control. You know, I don't ever really look at directions, but given that I've never done this before, I figured I probably should for this one. I feel like it's pretty simple. Like, I understand how it works. The question is, you know, which one is which? Throttle cable is forward. Okay, zinger. So throttle cable, shift cable. I'm gonna take this guy off, flip that over. You know, I never put any of that back together. That probably would have been smart to do. I still gotta put the front on for the carburetors. I should probably get to that. I totally forgot I took that off. It's over there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing installed. As you guys can see right here, there's a whole Mickey Mouse pattern looking thing going on with this boat. This is how the original shift control was. It was some just put together ordeal. I really don't know. It was like an attempt at a carbon fiber panel, which it was a mess. It was terrible. So I don't love having this all open, especially when I mount this guy on there, because if water gets down in there, I'd imagine it's just gonna go right behind there. At this point, I'm just trying to get the boat on the water for some test runs to kind of see what we're doing. So I'm going to install the shifter within this little hole, but it's not going to be final. For right now, I just need a way to shift the boat into gear, especially if we take it out in the water. So we're going to just put it on, and I think once I get it kind of figured out where I want it, how I want it, we'll probably go ahead and cover this up. Because if I ever fish out in the rain or anything, that's gonna be an issue in my opinion. I have the back panel off of here, and we're going to attach the throttle and shift link cable. I'm gonna go ahead and just attach them because the original cables weren't attached correctly either. So I'm really hoping that I might get lucky, and when I attach these things, they will be, you know, set decently or close. But if I had to guess, the linkage is probably going to be way off because it's never that easy. Gonna go ahead and put some lubricant on these guys in case they are a little bit sticky. And if you guys are wondering what I'm using, I'm just using Quicksilver marine grease. Voila, we have our shifter. Now, the goal is to try and tuck all those back like that. Oh, we gotta hook up our trim and stuff too. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make that work a little bit better, but see, these are where you lose. I don't even know where I'm gonna be able to mount this thing. I'm gonna have to drill holes, aren't I? I'm gonna have to probably drill a hole back like here. It's never easy. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a Forster bit, drill another hole in the gel coat and fiberglass, because I can't really get enough leeway from the cables to be able to set this shift control where I want it to. So we'll see how this goes. Alrighty, so we got our hole drilled. Essentially, that is why we had to get that in the right place so we could get this thing mounted. It's still closer to the steering wheel than I'd care for, but you know, typically these boats have hot foots, so I think that'll work. We'll put it right there. As for this right here, I don't love the way that looks, obviously. We'll probably fill this portion, and then this will probably get like a boot, like a rubber boot to slide over all those wires and kind of fill that area. But we're definitely gonna make sure this is sealed because I don't want it to rain and have water be going in there and stuff. So we'll tackle that another time, but for right now, we gotta stick this guy in place, get some holes drilled, and put the bolts and washers on. All right, so we got the first hole drilled. I know I did it off camera. I was just trying to focus to make sure we can get it lined up. Now, I'm working on getting the washer on there because this is the hard part. If I drop this in there, I am going to be very upset. You hear that?
If I drop this in there, I am going to be very upset.
There went the washer. I need something I could stick in there. I'm thinking about trying to suck it up with a vacuum. Oh, I sucked something up. Oh, you hear that? You think that was it? I'm hoping that was it. When in doubt, pull the vacuum out, baby. Come on, go on. Yes. Okay. If you guys want a little hack on how I drill my holes where I want stuff to be, where you can't get like a Sharpie or anything through, take a little bit of grease, stick it on the end of the bolt that goes through, like so. This is my little hack. Put it to where it needs to go. Boom, touch it, pull it away, lift it off. And you guys will have yourself a little mark. Bada bing, bada boom. And just like that, we have a shifter. Next thing is the trim and the ignition. We never ran the trim cord through, did we? Shoot. Remember when we ran through the, oh, shoot. That would be the only wire I have left to go through, and why didn't I run that with the freaking, I didn't leave that fish wire in there either, did we? Jordan. Yeah. All right, well, I totally did not run the trim cables when we ran the ignition cables, so I guess that's what we're doing next. So essentially what I'm gonna do here is, this is gonna make my life easier in two separate places. So number one, I know this took me a long time to get this ignition wired in correctly, but it just doesn't make sense to have ignition over there, have a key over here. Either way, you're gonna have just an empty key. Plus this one already has the kill switch built in, so I might as well just put it all together. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna cut this harness here and cut these wires and just hardwire them all together. A lot of people are gonna disagree with that, but for me to go get the alternate harness that goes all the way to the engine to this setup is roughly $120, I think it was. And that was buying it on Amazon. That wasn't even buying like OEM. So I don't feel like getting the conversion kit. I don't think it's necessary. I'm going to just connect the wires as best I can and as properly as I can. And then we're gonna see if it works. Plus, if I cut these right now, I can tape them all up and use this as my fish wire for the trim cables, because somehow I forgot to run all the trim back through the boat. So this will save a few problems for me. Again, people are probably gonna disagree with it, but wish me luck. Put this guy on first. All right. So if you guys take a look down here, it actually doesn't look that bad. That's the new hole I drilled, and I'll take it. Everything's in there. We're screwed on. Kill switch is on. Well, let's see before I start the engine. Does the trim work? Trim tab indeed works. Last but not least, the key. Oh yeah, it works. That doesn't seem right though. And at that moment, I realized something definitely was not right. I swear, I can never win. So it's currently the next day, and as you guys know, I installed a new key and a shift control yesterday. But now, ever since then, it doesn't work. So, we're getting this. The solenoid click. I'm starting to think that maybe the starter on this boat officially went on me. I have no idea. I'm gonna go ahead and take the starter off and see if we can get power to it, but that's about all I can do for now. So change of plans. We're gonna go from the dashboard back to the engine. Looks like we're working on this thing again. So we pulled the starter off and we got it right here on the ground. If I had to guess, I think the starter is probably just bad. I've never had a bad starter on a boat before, but we have our ground connected. I'm gonna hook the starter up to this deep cycle battery. This thing is freshly charged. This is my conclusion, at least. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but when I touch the terminal here with the power, it should make this guy move up top. And if you look closely, it's just sparking. It's not doing anything. So it's getting power to it, but we are not moving up here. So I'm assuming it's seized, it's bad, doesn't work anymore. I'm gonna leave that one to you guys in the comment section because a lot of you guys know way more than I do. I think tonight I'm gonna order a new solenoid and a new starter because if this solves a lot of my issues, then I'll be happy. Because, you know, I've been back and forth on like, did I hook up the ignition correctly? And I wonder if all this time I've been hooking up the ignition the right way, but it's just so weird because it could be coincidental. I would really love to know what you guys think, so just let me know. I mean, do you really think that maybe coincidentally at the time that I switched the keys over, my starter just officially croaked? Or did I cause the starter to croak? Who knows? All right, well, that's that. All right, so it's the following day, or like 2 days later at this point. Whoop-bam, we have ourselves a brand new starter. Now, it's not OEM, but it's going to get the job done. As you guys can see, I already took this one out of the box. I wrote new as of 2020 so I can keep track of what parts I've replaced. And we're gonna see if this guy goes on the engine. So it does work. I did test with the battery and the cables to see if this would fire. It does. So if you guys have never put a starter in before, you can watch what I'm doing. Not a professional here, but it's not that hard, or at least so it seems. So essentially it just bolts onto the engine block right here on the side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slap it back on. So essentially you have 3 places where the bolts are on the starter, and then you have a bolt for the ground. It's actually funny, I broke the original bolt. I don't know where I put it. That was on the other starter. It just didn't fit. I tried to torque it in there, snapped it off. So that was a catastrophe. Wish I had that on camera. But anyway, so you got your 3 holes and we're gonna line them up with our threaded bolts. I'm gonna start with the bottom one because that just is the easiest, or I should say the hardest to get to. This one is always the hardest. I say this like I've done this before, but really I've done it one time, so. Now, don't use an impact. I know I'm using one right here, so I look like a hypocrite, but you gotta go really slow. If you over torque one of these bolts or you push it in there too tight, you're gonna ruin the threads on your engine block, and good luck trying to fix that. So I'm putting it in there so it's not in there all the way, so I have some play. I'm just using it to kind of hold in place. Then I'm gonna go ahead and put the top one on, the exact same thing. Leave a little bit of play in there. If you're gonna do this, use a socket wrench. I know I am using an impact, but I'm being careful. And then we're gonna put our last bolt in there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'll torque them back over by hand. If you're gonna tighten big bolts, I always try to tighten them by hand like this. At least that's what my dad always taught me. Never just impact them in there. And now what we gotta do is we have to put our ground wire back on. So essentially you guys have two wires. You have your positive wire that comes from your solenoid, which is what tells the key to fire everything up. And then you have your ground. So I'm gonna take my ground, make sure I'm not hooked up to the battery, nope. The hardest part about this stuff, guys, is like when you drop the bolt, that's when it all goes downhill because it goes into this abyss of wires. All right, so we're gonna torque this guy down a little bit, get it down there tight. Don't want that moving around. And then we gotta put our positive on. And that's probably like a half, I'd assume. No, 7/16. All right, guys, now all we gotta do is see if it works. And by the way, guys, I did not have the main 2A battery, so do that afterward because you don't wanna get zapped while you're playing with that solenoid because you put that positive wire on to that front of that starter, you're gonna get a bunch of sparks, so. All right, so now we have our new key and ignition hooked up here, and when I turn this key, if I did everything correct, the starter should move up and turn the engine. So here goes nothing. Zinger. I don't want to play with it too much, but we're good to go. So we got our starter back, and honestly, we're probably better than ever. So next thing to do would be to try and get this out and get it re-fired up. I didn't end up buying a solenoid. I know I said I was gonna do that. Solenoid's clearly working fine. I probably should have an extra because that's gonna be the next thing to go. But I bought a fresh pack of fuses and stuff like that. So as far as everything goes, besides it not running perfectly, I think we might be able to take this guy out on the water just to get a couple test runs done. All right, one more thing I gotta ask you guys. I really want your opinion on this. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm curious what you guys have to say. So let's hop up into the boat. So for now, everything's good. We have a starter that works, a key that works. I do wanna get it started because I wanna try if the kill switch actually works. Throttle cable, shift link cables, goes into drive. Throttle, it's a little sticky. I lubed them, probably gonna need a new throttle cable, but is what it is. Goes right into neutral, no problem. Reverse, no problem. And we also got our throttle back. So that works all good. I checked it in line with the prop. When you put it in drive, prop stays where it needs to stay. When you put it in neutral, it spins freely, so we're all good there. Now we're talking about the whole dashboard idea. I picked this up off of Amazon just to try it out because I wanted something that would allow me to kind of wire up my dashboard, but now I'm having second thoughts on what to do. So check this out. Originally I was like, So originally I was thinking I could put this in for like a dashboard. You know what I mean? Have my toggles, maybe put a smaller one down there or put this down here and then put something else above. Now, as you guys will see, I don't have really any gauges at this point, let alone any that work. Don't have a gas gauge, don't have a speedometer. I think this is for the trim on the jack plate. At this point, I'm not interested in buying any of the OEM stuff from Basscat's website. This dash alone, they want like $500 for the conversion kit. That's just so much money. So I'm gonna make my own custom dash. At this point, this boat's becoming my custom little thing. Here's my idea. So originally I was gonna go with this, but after looking at it, I have about 7¼ inches of space in this little area. So my thoughts are, what if we custom fit a graph in there? That kind of sounds sick. You know, a lot of times you buy boats and they'll have a graph right here in the middle of the dashboard. Some guys mount them up here and stuff like that, but they make 7-inch graphs. So given that I have this thing installed, it's not gonna work because this is 4 inches wide and there's no way I'm gonna find like a 3¼ inch graph. But if I dropped like a 7-inch graph in here and then had a couple inches left below, I would just get a different switch panel that's like this and put it directly underneath where the graph is at. The benefits to putting a graph, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, fish finder, putting a fish finder in right here is I'm gonna be able to have all the capabilities that I would get out of a dashboard essentially that I care to have. So I'm talking maps, you know, GPS, I'm talking speedometer. I can get that out of my graph. I'm talking depth. I got everything that I need right there within a little graph for essentially the same price that I would spend to redo this whole dashboard. So that's kind of where I'm at. What do you guys think of that? I want to know what you think. I want to pick your brain a little bit on what you guys think I should do with this dash area, because I just don't care to have all the fuel gauges and stuff like that. My old Nitro had 42-gallon gas tanks. The gas gauge on it was never accurate. I pretty much always opened the back hatch and just looked at the gas, see where the level was at. So I'll probably do the same for this boat. It's not really a necessity for me to have a fuel gauge. RPMs and things like that, yes, it's nice to have, but I also think you can get graphs that do that, but I don't know. Like, for me to just do all this stuff, it's kind of unnecessary. I have a 1986 engine. If it ain't running right, I'm gonna just diagnose it. I mean, all the outboard engines and stuff like that I've ever had, I don't have RPM gauges or anything like that. They're just two strokes that if they break, you gotta figure out how to fix them. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, what if I just completely eliminate everything that's in here, buy custom dash pieces, and make my own cool dashboard? I mean, even with a switch toggle like this thing is sweet. I could even maybe put this on this side, you know, where this stuff is at. Right here, I could have nav lights, I could have auxiliary, I could have interior lights, I could have live wells. There's enough switches here to do literally whatever I want. So I want to know what you guys think are the necessities to have, because I definitely don't want to forget any of those, but I also think it would be nice to have literally a touchscreen graph right here to give me all that I want there, but also USB ports to plug in my phone, cigarette lighter to plug in maybe a pump for like a tube or a water raft if I want to hang out for the day. I can see my voltage of my battery so I know if it's gonna die or not. I think there could be huge benefit to something like this, and this wasn't that expensive. It's like 32 bucks for one of these. So I am going to be returning this one because I got the wrong color. I think that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys like what you see. I'm glad we got the engine all figured out. We got the new shifter in, we got throttle cables and everything hooked up. This boat is water ready. I also fixed the holes in the back. For those of you guys who watched the last video and saw that I epoxied it, it worked. I wouldn't say it's my favorite thing that I did, but it worked. So we're gonna go get out in the water and figure out if this thing sinks, if it runs. Like, we're gonna just try and get out and see what happens, because I've never put this boat in water. I'm very nervous to do it, but it's gotta be done, and I know you guys wanna see it. So at this point, the next video about the Bass Cat is going to be in a lake. I'm super excited. I hope you guys are. Leave me a comment down below. You guys know what to do. Fire away. Let me know all the information that you have for me. And with that being said, I'll see y'all in the next one.